Riley Herbst from 2311 Racing here, and you know what grinds my gears? Waiting for coffee. But instead of counting frappes and lattes, I fire up Chumba Casino. No apps, no fuss, just fun social casino games to pass the time. By the time my coffee's ready,
order for Riley.
I've already taken a few victory laps. Next time you're stuck waiting, make it entertaining. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. Here we are, hour number 2 of the program today. It's my pleasure to be here. We've been talking about Iran and Israel and this intelligence report that was leaked to CNN, top secret or classified or whatever it was. They shouldn't even know about this. You got people inside the government that are talking about these things with the media, should never happen, all this sort of stuff, my friends. You know the routine, you know the deal, you know how it goes. That's what we've been discussing today on the program. I referenced something that I will get to later in the program. But I also have a clip of Marco Rubio at the NATO summit. He's addressing the leaked report from the Pentagon that said that the recent U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear sites likely only delayed the program by a few months and actually did not destroy it. I'm looking at a post, or this clip is posted by Brute, B-R-U-T. He, Rubio, called the leakers professional stabbers. So we will play that clip to give some framework. That's where we'll start this hour. And then I want to talk about Trump, who now doesn't appear to want regime change in Iran. So we'll talk about those things, my friends, as we move forward with the program today. So before we get too far down that path, friends, let's talk about your future. I know if you're like all of us, we want to be here. We want to watch, of course, kids grow up, have families, have grandkids if that's in the future. And part of that, of course, is some things we don't have any control over. Some things we have no control over. But some things we do. And the way that we take care of our bodies and our health is a big part of that. So if you want to stay healthy, to see those things, to experience life, to travel, to retire, whatever it is on your horizon. On top of that, I know you want to stay in the fight to save this great nation. We got to take care of our health. That's why, my friends, I introduced you to Solti. It's an all-natural, clinically proven dietary supplement that lowers your cholesterol safely. There's no prescriptions. There are no doctor visits. There is no hassle. All you have to do is take 2 Solti soft gels a day. And they're not big. That's the other thing. They're not these big horse pills, as we refer to them here in my neck of the woods. But these are just really manageable soft gels. You just take 2 of them. You take them at one time a day, and that's a great starting point to take care of your heart and your cholesterol. So I've been using this product myself, and so I would encourage you to check it out as well. It's very affordable. It's safe. It is. It's not a drug. It's a good place to start. Even if you're younger, it's a good place to start. Solti.com, S-O-L-T-E-A, Solti.com. Promo code Todd is going to save you 50% on your first purchase and get you free shipping to boot. I'm telling you, this is not as expensive as you might think. So check it out, Salty.com, promo code Todd. So let's get to Rubio here. He's sitting down. He's answering questions. He's sitting beside Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense. Of course, Rubio, Secretary of State. They're at the NATO summit. They're being asked about this report that says Iran's nuclear capabilities were not fully destroyed. Trump's up here too as well during this part of the back and forth. Anyway, I want to play this. I want to play this to give you a chance to hear what's being said by the administration in dealing with this report. So that being said, here's Rubio attempting to address this story that we've been talking about here today. Here it is. Oh, hold on.
That's the game.
First
of all this stuff about the intelligence, this is what a leaker is telling you the intelligence says. That's the game these people play. They read it, and then they go out and characterize it the way they want it characterized, and they're leakers. This is the game they play. So that's number one. Number two, here's a fact. The conversion facility, which you can't do a nuclear weapon without a conversion facility. We can't even find where it is, where it used to be on the map. You can't even find where it used to be because the whole thing is just blackened out. It's gone.
It's wiped out.
It's wiped out. Then we dropped 12 of the strongest bombs on the planet right down the hole in 2 places. Everything underneath that mountain is in bad shape. And I refer you to the statement of the IAEA, Mr. Grossi. You know what he said? He said there was Iran, the way it looked the day before the attack, and what their nuclear program looks like now. 2 very different things. They are way behind where they were just 7 days ago. Now, anything in the world can be rebuilt, but now we know where it is. And if they try to rebuild it, we'll have options there as well. But all this leaker stuff, these leakers are professional stabbers. That's what they are. They go out and they read this stuff, and then they tell you what it says against the law, but they characterize it for you in a way that's absolutely false. There's no way Iran comes to the table if somehow nothing had happened. This was complete and total obliteration. They're in bad shape. They are way behind today compared to where they were just 7 days ago because of what the president did.
Marco, can I
And so Marco says, look, we have a conversion facility, which is necessary. Well, they did have one. Iran did have a conversion facility, but they don't have it anymore. In fact, we can't even find where it was. We have pictures of it before we dropped this massive airstrike, these massive bombs. We have pictures of it before. Now we can't even find where the building was. Where was it supposed to be? We thought it was here yesterday. Where is the thing? It's been completely and utterly decimated, obliterated, blown to smithereens, however you wanted to say it. Rubio says, look, anything can be rebuilt, but the idea that their capabilities have only been slightly damaged and that they've remained largely intact and we haven't pushed them too far off the path of where they were is preposterous. So you haven't seen the report. You've heard what someone's assessment of the report is. By the way, illegally so. Illegally so. We've understood what we were targeting. A lot of this stuff's underground. We dropped 12 of the largest bomb, I guess, outside of a nuclear bomb, I suppose. We dropped 12 of those down the holes here and blown up everything that's beneath the surface. I think it's safe to say that it's been obliterated. It's been decimated. It's been vaporized. It's been, in fact, again, this conversion facility that's necessary to do the work of weaponizing uranium. They can't even find it now. Can't even find it. What are we talking about? Why are we acting like this is to be taken seriously? It is interesting to think about. I go back to the initial article here. I'm going to continue reading this thing. It's longer. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's pretty long. But I'm going to read where I stopped last hour, Caroline Levitt, I read her response to these claims, and she said that the bombs perfectly did what they were going to do. They landed perfectly on their target, and it resulted in total obliteration. That's what she said. The article continues. Trump, who's in the Netherlands attending this week's NATO summit, pushed back on CNN's report in a Truth Social post. One of the most successful military strikes in history, Trump wrote in all caps, adding the nuclear sites in Iran are completely destroyed. So that's the message from this administration. Now, nothing is new here, right? This is how this is covered. This is not surprising. I mean, you know, they pull this sort of thing out of their hats every once in a while, but this is not surprising. This is how they respond to Trump and his administration. Meanwhile, you can be using an auto pen and you can have a president who, for the Democrat Party, who totally is unaware of who he is, where he is, what's going on, what's happening, what he's saying. They can't figure any of that out. No. It took them a year to figure that out. Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson had to go out and do some comprehensive digging to realize that Joe Biden was in worse shape than the White House ever let on. And Jake Tapper wants to blame the White House from hiding that from him. Give me a break. You didn't do any digging. You didn't have the slightest bit of curiosity. None of the stuff mattered to you. You were interested in protecting a particular president. You wanted to watch a victory, a coronation of a new president, and Kamala Harris. You didn't want Trump back in the White House. It's not hard to understand. Not hard to understand at all. Trump has been dealing with this for a long time. This is how they deal with Trump. This is what they say. This is how they go about it. But the White House has repeatedly said that the nuclear strikes, the nuclear sites, I should say, in Iran have been completely destroyed. That is what we are saying. That's what the Trump administration is saying. Now, the question is, who do you believe? Now, that's what's interesting to me. Who do you believe, and why do you believe it? Why do you believe Trump here, as I do? Why do I believe Trump? Why does someone else believe the media? You know, it's pretty interesting to think about. You know, I sit here and I watch, and you have too, I watch the real culprits here with leading us to where we are today. People in the media, people in the established government in the Democrat Party, even others in the Republican Party. Trump is not the one that's taken us to the brink here. Now, it might feel like it, but it feels like it to the people who haven't paid close attention over the years, because Trump is doing things much differently than a lot of his predecessors have done. Trump's style makes some people incredibly uncomfortable, makes them feel like we're actually putting ourselves at great risk. He's calling out our allies. I referenced earlier, getting our allies to pay the agreed upon share of their GDP to NATO has been a difficult thing that, for some reason, previous administrations were totally cool with never enforcing, never holding our allies to account. Why? Why would you do that? Why is that the acceptable thing? Why is that what the media tells us that we should desire? Why? It appears to me that the media doesn't want to see any real substantive change. The media seems totally content on keeping things status quo. The media doesn't seem to want to see things return to the way that they were initially set up to operate in the case of NATO. In fact, you've seen headlines too. Obama said back in 2012 that future administrations needed to do whatever was necessary to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Trump has done just that. It's interesting too. Most people understand this. Most people are on the right page with this. By the way, may I point this out for the people who thought bombing these facilities was going to cause World War III? It seems that the bombing of these facilities has actually facilitated a movement towards peace talks and negotiations. Yes, there have been skirmishes. Yes, there have been some back and forth. In fact, Trump Trump got on Israel and Netanyahu, right? Trump goes to all this trouble to say both sides have agreed to a ceasefire. He goes to bed. He wakes up to find that Iran had fired another missile, maybe a couple of missiles at Israel. Israel responds by going and bombing. Trump thought unnecessarily so, bombing too heavily in response to what happened to them. Trump kind of jumps on Netanyahu, which, for the people who hate Israel or who blame Israel for this more so than I do, which again, Israel is not perfect. Make no mistake, Israel's not perfect. Israel should not be held up as perfect, even for those of us who believe that Israel is the nation that God has chosen to work with. I mean, the Old Testament has made that abundantly clear. That doesn't mean that Israel is perfect. God has made promises to Israel. And I just wouldn't want to be on the side that says we're not going to honor that promise, or we're going to do something to try to change the outcome of what that promise is. First of all, that's futility. Second of all, I don't want to be in that predicament. But even in saying that, I can also recognize that Israel is not perfect. Israel has done things that are not good as well. But Israel, at the same time, is not the cause of the strife, is not the cause and the source of all that is happening in the Middle East. That comes largely from the radically extreme Islamofascists in the region, in places like Iran, in places and groups and terrorist organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas and Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Those are the people who are causing the problem. Those are the people who believe they have a religious mandate to kill anyone or to conquer by the sword anyone who does not submit to their particular interpretation of Islam. That's where the real source of the problem lies. And it's a fascinating thing to watch. It's fascinating to watch these leftists. I read for you yesterday at the end of the program some laws on the books in the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, I did that just to illustrate that Iran is not the good guy. That doesn't mean that because of those laws that we should bomb them. No, that was not the point. The point here was to illustrate really the mentality and the type of people that we are dealing with here. The mentality of this regime to do some of the things that they've done, the actions that they've taken against their own citizens are oftentimes completely reprehensible and evil and wicked and oppressive. And I feel like that needs to be pointed out because a lot of these leftists are defending the Islamic Republic of Iran, saying things like Iran can defend itself. Of course, Iran can defend itself, but Iran can't unnecessarily try to harm its neighbor, which is what's been happening. It's amazing to me how people don't know this or don't care. Iran is quite literally has been fighting a war with the United States and with Israel and other allies of ours in the region. They've been fighting using Hezbollah and other proxy, other wars by proxy. They've been doing this for some time, and it's amazing because they don't have the Iranian flag on the uniform. How many people say, well, that's not the Iranians? Iranians are equipping those groups. Iranians are funding those groups, but Iranians say, we can't do it. Nothing, we don't have anything to do with this. This isn't Iran. These are terrorist organizations. They might not call them terrorist organizations, but the routine. And this works. This works on the people who tell you repeatedly that they're the smartest people on the face of the planet. And this is propaganda, but it's so poor. It's not even slightly sophisticated. It's incredibly simple. It's incredibly just obvious for anybody who wants to see it. It's right there. But this works on the left. It works on the left because they hate Israel so much. You know, a lot of people, they go through life not looking for the truth. They look for information that reinforces what they want to believe, the conclusions that they've drawn. And I think that's how a lot of these folks on the left are. They don't take time to realize that they're literally going out to pride festivals here in the United States, saying that the United States is the one that's oppressing LGBT communities, putting their lives in jeopardy. And at the same time, after they put the flags up from attending the pride rally, they then go to a pro-Iran rally, who quite literally is doing the very things that they tell us that this country is doing to LGBT community or to women. You want to talk about a real war on women? Look no further than the Islamic Republic of Iran's way of dealing with women in their country. I read some of those laws to you yesterday, referenced some of that, did a little bit of discussing, had a little bit of a discussion about those things. But yet, the left is, again, are they oblivious? Are they disinterested? Are they ignorant? They don't want to admit that either. See, if you say you don't know what's going on, and people say things like, go educate yourself, that's basically fighting words to the left. They think that they're the most educated, most brilliant people. And of course, they have to be in their minds, because how can they control everything that happens in the world and deliver on these utopian promises if they're average like the rest of us? They got to be smarter and better, and so they can't be the ones who are wrong. And so obviously, if there's a disagreement, they have to be the ones who are right, and the people who think the other things are wrong. This is just a vicious cycle. And dare I say, it's rooted in pride that says that they know better than the rest of us. So that's what's going on. Getting to the end of this segment here. Friends, Mike Lindell, MyPillow, and the employees there want to say thank you. Thank you for purchasing their products, whether you're purchasing their pillows, whether you're purchasing their towels, whether you're purchasing their dog beds, whatever you're purchasing at MyPillow. They want to say thank you for supporting them. Mike has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep that they possibly can. And he didn't just stop by creating the best pillow. He's got other products as well, including bed sheets. And they've got a special on their Percale bed sheets. You can get a set of those now for as low as $24.98. The MyPillow Percale bed sheets are breathable. They have a cool and crisp feel. They have deep pockets to fit over any size mattress. Well, any thickness of a mattress. You got to get the right size sheet for your mattress, but you know what I mean. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep, which is crucial for those of you who have busy schedules in particular. Also, for a limited time, they've got a special that says when you spend over $100 on your order, you will receive $100 in free digital gift cards in return. MyPillow.com is the website. Promo code Todd's going to get you this special. That will get you the Percale bed sheets as low as $24.98. MyPillow.com, promo code Todd. Quick time out, my friends. You're listening here to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, my friends. I told you I'd get back to this. This is justthenews.com. Trump says he does not want regime change in Iran, which might come as a surprise, which might come as, this is not what he was saying. He didn't necessarily say, at least I haven't seen where he outright said we have to have regime change. He has said if the people of Iran, I'm paraphrasing here, but as I remember reading it, the people of Iran, if they want to change the leadership, the regime, then, that's something that they could look at doing, basically. But now he's saying something a little bit differently. However, again, I think context matters here. I don't think, it's interesting to me how people interpret Trump. It really is. Trump, I've said this, I think you want to understand a couple things about Trump. I think the first thing you have to understand is that Trump is not, I don't know if this is in order, but one of the big things is Trump is not an ideologue. Trump is a guy who governs from a perspective of common sense. What makes the most sense? How would I do this in my company? Of course, it's not the same as running a company because the government's not the same, but there's certainly plenty of things that you could take from one and apply to the other. But he's not idealistic, and he's not a ideological conservative, which, at some level concerns someone who is like me, but I don't think that we're ever going to truly get to a point in the next 4 years to where there's going to be a big problem arise because he wouldn't be an ideological conservative. I think that the next 500 things that need to be done in this country are so obvious and necessary that someone who's not an ideological conservative would still see them, as long as they're not a radical leftist, which Trump is not. So that's a big thing. He's not ideological, number one. Number two, again, I'm just numbering these because of how I'm talking about them. I'm not saying in this order necessarily. But Trump also communicates differently than a lot of people. Trump uses stream of consciousness. Trump is not a scripted kind of guy. Trump is used to being in the boardroom, being in the meeting where he has to think on the spot. He's got somebody who's interested in a real estate deal or some partnership or whatever, and he's got to think on the fly. And he thinks in terms of how do I find out what this other person wants? How do I get them what they want so that I can get what I want in return? And he applies this as commander-in-chief and as the president of the United States when he's negotiating and dealing with countries around the world on behalf of the American people. I think he takes this quite seriously. Now, his style is bombastic, right? He's not afraid to say virtually anything, and he's not afraid to use some of these techniques to put additional pressure on people to get what he ultimately wants. I think that's a big component of this as well. So, but there's a lot of misunderstanding of who Trump is. Also, Trump is, I find it interesting. People talk about Trump as though he's the biggest ego on the face of the planet. Listen, I understand Trump has an ego, but Trump has a tremendous sense of humor. Trump makes even fun of himself, and you haven't always found that. You don't always find that amongst people who are in positions of leadership like he is. I think he's quite open to people and, to people he respects. As far as being persuaded, I think he's got a pretty open mind. Now, obviously, not on everything. Like, for example, you can't have your mind open to Iran having a nuclear weapon when you understand that. You're not going to be persuaded on that. But when it comes to the next steps, and also the reasoning and the rationale here as it pertains to regime change, it makes sense what he's saying. I just want to share it with you. I'm not saying I agree completely, but I certainly see where he comes from here. So Trump says he does not want regime change in Iran. This is justthenews.com. Regime change takes chaos, and ideally, we don't want to see much chaos. So we'll see how it does, says President Trump. So the article says this: President Trump on Tuesday said that he does not want regime change in Iran after bringing it up over the weekend. I don't want it, Trump told reporters on Air Force One as he traveled to the NATO summit in The Hague, Netherlands, the Associated Press reported. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos, and ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos, so we'll see how it goes. On Sunday, Trump posted on Truth Social, it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MEGA, M-I-G-A, make Iran great again. Trump's comments on Tuesday follow his announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran on Monday after the two countries exchanged missile fire and the U.S. hit Iranian nuclear sites on Saturday. So pause all of this. This is where the practical side of Trump is actually an advantage. It's an advantage to having a president. So I just said sometimes it concerns me that he's not an ideologue on conservative principles, understanding them, seeing the principles through his perspective as he looks at the world. He's not ideological like that. And that's not always bad, because take this example. So Trump, what is paramount? What is paramount in this situation between Iran and Israel? What's paramount is that there's not war, or worse yet, nuclear war. So that's where Trump's coming from. My job, in Trump's mind, is to stop this trajectory we're on that says Iran is on the path to a nuclear weapon. They said they're going to use it against their enemies, Israel in this case. Israel's an ally. This can't happen. That is paramount. All of these other things fall secondarily to this. Now, the Iranian people have lived under this regime for a long time. It has been oppressive. It has been brutal. It has been evil. It has been wicked. Trump says we're not engaged. We're not dealing with that. What we're dealing with here is trying to prevent World War III, trying to prevent a nuclear war, trying to prevent more chaos and violence in the region. And so Trump's position is, look, I've got two nations now that are talking, that have agreed to a ceasefire. It's not been perfect. In fact, Trump would say, I've had to jump on both of them a little bit here. We've had to have a little bit of tough love with Israel, and we've had to remind Iran repeatedly, by the way, we just bombed the living daylights out of you. We're prepared to do it again if you think you're going to pursue a nuclear weapon. That's unacceptable, but we want you to have peace. You have a country, you have oil, you got a lot going for yourself, make the right decision. So Trump says, look, we've gotten to this at least temporary peace. So Trump says that is what is paramount. All these other things, Trump has an uncanny, I think, ability to see past some of those other things. Now, some people would say, man, it's so close. These people have been living. I agree. A regime change would be wonderful for the Iranian people. More likely than not, it would be better for the region, but we don't know. We don't know who comes in and fills that void if they do replace the government, overthrow the government. But to his point, look, stability is necessary for where we are, right? To keep everything calm, we've got to have stability. Regime change takes chaos. And we don't want to see so much of that right now, because that's going to lead to more tension and uncertainty and turmoil. And that's the bigger issue here, says Trump. And while I certainly, listen, I don't want U.S.-led regime change, but for the Iranian people, I do hope that they can get their regime change while also totally recognizing a lot of the truth of what Trump says here. So I've got to take a time out. Friends, sales is tough. Talking to you as a salesperson, but here's the thing. You don't have to do it alone, my friends. Matt Easton and Easton University, they don't just give you a system. They give you accountability, a process whereby you can not just learn how to sell, but you have coaching and ongoing accountability to show up and get better and put your skills to the test. So, been spinning your wheels, if you've been feeling stuck in sales, here's your chance to actually break through. Go to toddhuffshow.com/Easton, toddhuffshow.com/Easton to learn more about Matt's training program at Easton University. You can also sign up there, and if you do, you're going to get a free bonus of having a welcome call from Matt where he will help onboard you, answer your questions, and get you started in the program as quickly and easily as possible. I've got to take a break, my friends. Quick timeout, back in just a minute.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, my friends. Third and final segment of the program today. Second hour of the program. It's going quickly as it often does. Headline here at thenationalpulse.com. I want to make sure I at least mention this. Netanyahu hits back at Trump, but agrees to stop the strikes. So this is thenationalpulse.com. It says this. This is kind of the, well, actually, let's just read the article. I was going to go through the bullet points, but let's read this. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has responded to President Donald J. Trump's criticism of Israeli forces launching a massive attack on Iran shortly before a ceasefire was due to take effect. We've referenced this and talked about this briefly, resulting in subsequent violations by both parties. According to a statement from Netanyahu's office, the Israeli Air Force, quote, forcefully attacked in the heart of Tehran, struck regime targets, and eliminated hundreds of Basij and Iranian security force personnel at 3 a.m. or just hours before a scheduled ceasefire was to begin at 7 a.m. Shortly before the ceasefire was due to take effect, Iran launched a barrage of missiles, one of which took the lives of 4 of our citizens in Beersheba. The statement continues, asserting that 6 minutes after the ceasefire took effect at 7 a.m., quote, Iran launched 1 missile at Israeli territory and 2 additional missiles at 10:25. Despite acknowledging that the missiles, quote, were either intercepted or fell in open areas and caused neither casualties nor damage, the Israeli statement defends subsequent strikes on Iran as a response to the Islamic Republic's violations. President Trump was highly critical of Israel's actions on Tuesday morning, saying Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've ever seen. That was Trump's synopsis of the events. He continued by saying this, I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. He continued, adding that Israel and Iran don't know what they blank they are doing. We played that soundbite yesterday. Despite defending its strikes before the ceasefire officially went into effect, Netanyahu's office acknowledged that pursuant to the conversation between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, Israel has refrained from additional attacks. The Israeli statement added that, quote, in the conversation, President Trump expressed his great appreciation for Israel, which achieved all of its objectives for the war, as well as his confidence in the stability of the ceasefire. So there you go. So Netanyahu, again, Trump, I think that there's it's necessary to understand Trump. Trump went out and got these 2 parties to agree to a ceasefire. So in the process of the past couple of weeks, and of course this goes back for years and years, but here over the past couple of weeks, we've had tensions with Iran rise. There's been concerns that Iran was days or weeks away, very close to having the capability of using nuclear weapons against Israel. They've, of course, said that they would use those to take Israel off the face of the planet. Trump thought that the threat was so high that it would be necessary to preemptively strike and take out 3 nuclear sites from Iran or in Iran. That would prevent them from furthering any nuclear weapons, at least for the foreseeable future. We've talked about whether or not that's a mere months, according to reports, or if it is in fact more like years. But anyway, that's what Trump did. He feels like he did all the work. We sent, we did something that no one else on the planet can do, which is reach this facility way underground. He's negotiated between both sides basically said, look, according to Trump, we're ready to stop this. They've created an off-ramp for Iran. We talked about this yesterday, where Iran talked with the United States prior to shooting missiles, towards the U.S. airbase to show that they were not going to take this lying down. They let Iran save face, even though Trump mocked them a little bit. The whole thing, right? Goes through all the shenanigans, all of that stuff. Only we can take out this nuclear facility. We brought both people to the table. We got a negotiated peace settlement. We let Iran flex its muscle a little bit, save face, get them to the table. They agree, and then suddenly, within hours of this thing taking effect, Israel's up in the air. Now, Trump's mad at Israel because he's probably thinking, look, I expect this sort of stuff from Iran. I don't expect, Prime Minister Netanyahu, for you to respond with such force. You can't, we are so close here. I understand that they shouldn't have done it, but we have to, we've gotten them to a point where we've solved the larger problem here. Let's not make this into something more than it is right now. We're headed in the right direction. That's Trump's thinking. At the same time, you can understand Netanyahu's thinking, which is, look, we've dealt with Iran for a long time. They can't be trusted. The ceasefire is quickly approaching. They've killed 4 of our people. They're firing other missiles. We're not going to take this lying down. We're going to go in and we're going to send a message and we're going to, drop the hammer. You can understand that thinking as well. But if we're looking for peace, Trump's got a lot of good points here. I'm out of time, though. Got to run. SDG.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.